President Biden has also announced that he wants to see the Build Back Better Act passed as soon as possible, along with more direct payments for Americans this year. It's important to remember, friends, that Biden's Build Back Better bill actually includes a fourth round of checks. So the American Rescue Plan, which is a $1.9 trillion relief package that passed in March, allowed for people to receive in advance on their child tax credit in the form of monthly payments, beginning in July and ending in December. The payments help decrease child poverty, and Biden says he wants to make it permanent, although the Build Back Better Act would only extend the program through the end of 2022. During a recent press briefing, Brian Deese, director of the National Economic Council, said the child tax credit aspect of the Build Back Better was one of the bigger reasons why the Biden administration wanted to make sure it was passed before the end of the year. The House of Representatives passed the package in November, but it's currently still being negotiated on in the Senate. An extension of the child tax credit, which would mean more direct payments for families this year. I know millions of people can actually use an extra stimulus check right now, so we'd like to see the Build Back Better relief bill passed sooner than later. The Build Back Better Act takes the direct payments one step further than the American Rescue Plan. It's a better stimulus check, everybody. Instead of receiving half the credit in monthly payments and half after a person files their taxes, the Build Back Better Act will allow people to receive the full credit in monthly payments. The Build Back Better would also extend the increase on the child tax credit amount. The American Rescue Plan increased payments from $2,000 per child to $3,600 for eligible children under the age of 6, and $3,000 for children between 6 and 17. With the increase in the child tax credit amount, parents have been receiving monthly payments of $300 for children under 6 and $250 for all other eligible children. But there are many Americans that also say a fourth round of stimulus should go out to all people. Biden has been pushing for Congress to extend this child tax credit for months now, saying in a speech to hardworking people who pay taxes deserve a break. Many Biden administration officials acknowledge the goal is to make the expanded child tax credit permanent, but the initial plan was to extend it for years. In his remarks, Biden called the expanded child tax credit transformative and the right and smart thing to do. One White House official said, "We are confident we'll get the Build Back Better passed. Extending the child tax credit is one of the main reasons we need to do it now." So everybody, Republicans and Democrats, are continuing to negotiate over this, and I believe that President Biden can make this change happen and send out stimulus relief checks.
Both are calling from their office. Senator Warnock from Georgia.
Thank you so very much, Chairman Brown. We are in the middle of a housing crisis, and this is true, obviously, all across the country, but it is especially true in Georgia. We're certainly feeling it all across my state, where constituents are facing difficulties finding affordable housing in the Atlanta area and all across the state. And in this time of difficulty, some corporate landlords have been aggressively issuing eviction notices. Between January and April of 2021, in the middle of a pandemic, Pretium Partners and its subsidiaries filed 155 evictions in DeKalb County alone. Ventron Management has filed for eviction against the tenants of Brooks Crossing Apartments a total of 427 times since April of 2020. I'm happy to see Mr. Waller here, a fellow Georgian who has been on the front lines of this problem and helping these families who are facing eviction. If you think about housing, you're talking about healthcare. Also, people are more likely to be able to maintain a healthcare regimen. Kids are better able to study. We're talking about education, a whole range of issues. Housing is stability. Housing is dignity. Mr. Waller, based on your experience working directly with communities, are these companies targeting evictions to specific areas, or is this just, part of the marketplace?
Thank you, Senator. It's a pleasure to see you. So yes, they are targeting. Their activity we observe is concentrated in communities of color and low-income communities. And as a result, although they might be a smaller, larger part of the marketplace, in those communities, the threat from this type of institutional landlord is very real. And it causes additional destabilization. Again, it extracts wealth from these communities, reduces their ability to improve their circumstances or find new places for their children to live. It also reduces the ability of the community to support the education of kids, and support the employment potential of their families.
Well, and you described well the impact of all of this, but what's motivating these companies to file so many eviction notices during a public health crisis?
The eviction system in Georgia is set up to support the needs of landlords. And so when you look at why landlords use evictions, it's not necessarily to remove a tenant. Eviction in Georgia is a very inexpensive process for a landlord. It can be very quick. And landlords have attorneys that are at their disposal, of course, but also the way the courts are set up, it's very inexpensive to use a landlord attorney. And so they use eviction filings not just to push people out and bring new people in. They also use them to threaten, intimidate, and coerce tenants into paying often unlawful fees, as well as paying up rent when tenants complain about miserable living conditions. And I should point out that tenants have zero leverage in Georgia. Regardless of the conditions of the home, the tenant is still obligated to pay. And so if they don't pay, they can be evicted. And so landlords know this, and they use it to their advantage.
Right. And you've talked already about the effects of this on families. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about the impact of this on children?
Yes, sir. That's very near and dear to my heart, of course, at Georgia Appleseed, and the impact is really profound and can't be overstated. So, first of all, these evictions, and it threatens, the threat of eviction filings has a tremendous psychological effect on the parents and puts them in a sort of a state, feeling like they're in a state of constant emergency. So there's a lot of stress associated with that. But involuntary moves caused by eviction have measurable, well-studied, and negative impacts on children. There's learning loss every time there's a move. There are behavior challenges that appear after several moves. These impacts also affect their classmates. There's something called school mobility, which has been measured a great deal. And the more school mobility that a school experiences, in other words, the more children move in and out of the classroom during the year, the worse the effect on their classmates, as well as on teacher morale and teacher retention. So the communities end up paying the costs and not, when the landlords act in this way.
So all of us have reason to want to curb the activities of these bad actors. We all have something at stake here, whether it impacts us directly or not. Thinking about Dr. King said, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And so I've introduced legislation to make down payments more affordable for first-generation home buyers. And I support affordable housing construction.